Part Threes. It's Thursday, April the 31st, and I just finished reading all your discussion posts for the scripture module. And I just thought I would do a quick video just to give a little bit of feedback. Too much to type, too much going on up here. That's the hard part for me and doing this online course, because if I was in a course, in a class, boy, we would have had some really good dialogue going between us. And so it's, I try to figure out how do I condense this. And so this is one way for me to do that. Loved again your discussion posts. Thank you very much for your efforts. Thank you for interacting with one another. I think that's the most important part of this course. I try to say a little something to everyone. Sometimes I don't, but for the most part I try. I try to just kind of pick on something that just like really strikes me from your particular post, because there's so many common things said amongst the whole class, but then I try to see what is it that this person is saying to me that kind of jumps out off the screen for me, and that's where I just kind of give you a yes, or oh, I love this, or I might say a few other things. But I also love how you guys fill in the gaps for each other. So when you do reply to someone in a discussion post, you'll be like, oh, I never thought of this. By reading your post, I figured out this and that and the other thing, and just kind of, you know, starts to come together. So that's what it's about. Like, that's how come these discussion posts are so important, and that your response, and a somewhat timely response too. I know some people are struggling in this time of trying to bring everything together, but for the most part, you know, if you stay together as a group, you've got this interaction going. So that's wonderful, and that's what's happening in this class, and I thank you for that, and I thank you for your efforts. But if at any point you feel like you've just kind of like, I still am wondering about this, or I feel like I didn't get my question answered, please ask me. Ask me to fill in the gaps once it's all been done. Everyone's read posts, you've gotten responses, things have kind of come together, and maybe I just missed it when I'm reading, because I sit there and I read so much, right? Like, so what jumped out at me may have been something that maybe could have been a little trivial to you, and you might have thought, well, how did she miss this thing? Why didn't she respond to this? So it's your job to kind of point it out to me if I kind of miss it, and I'd be happy to fill in the gaps. So please, please, please do tap into that. But just as I'm reading all your posts, I just was dying to get in there and make connections for you guys. So as we come to the end of scripture, first and foremost, don't let go of John. Keep him, and keep going back to him. And if you didn't take the time to read John, some of you probably just watch the videos, and some of you probably just watch those clips, and that's fine. We all have to do what we need to do at this time, because we're all in different, you know, realities here. But keep going back to John. Like, really get a good grasp on his gospel, the community of John. Yeah, it's not one particular person really, but and how that is unfolding in your ministry, and how you've been called to work in Catholic education as your ministry. Okay, because John has a lot to give us in terms of putting it all together, taking it to a higher level, and looking at leadership, you know. And in part 3 in particular, a lot of you guys are thinking about leadership in different forms. You know, really try to land on what is true leadership in a Catholic school, because I find this time in history, our model of leadership has really derailed. It has infiltrated the school system, especially the Catholic school system, and there's a lot of what's going on that really doesn't align itself with gospel values. And I have to tell you, being a leader and aligning yourself with gospel values is so difficult, because it goes so against the grain, and it is a challenge to stay true to the gospel if you're a leader. A couple of reasons. One, people will misinterpret you and think, oh, you're a softie, or oh, you're being too compassionate, or you're not being tough enough. It's hard to find that middle ground of being, you know, holding people accountable and using the gospel as your backbone. You know, I remember when I first was course director years ago in the face-to-face course, I would get things from people like, oh, you're supposed to be Christian, why are you acting like that? I'm like, Jesus wasn't a pushover. he still held people accountable to what they needed to do and who they needed to become. That doesn't change. That's what leadership's about. It's not to be a pushover. Compassion doesn't mean you can walk all over someone. It's a different way of looking at, how to lead. Okay, so keep that in mind. And really, John is every year. So, if you didn't sit down and read John in his entirety, then catch him in the next season. He'll be back in Lent. He's got his season. This year we're in a Matthew year in the Synoptics. If you have time, get into Matthew. We don't have to learn everything all at once. We don't have to know the whole Bible in its entirety. It's given to us in bits and pieces and chunks, and this is why I love the Living with Christ, because it just breaks it down for us. And again, get a good commentary if you really want to go deep, and you're off. So very quickly, looking at what you had to look at in terms of John, the sort of the highlights of what we want you to walk away with in this course, the way this course was designed. First of all, the beauty of the prologue, right? And again, it's one of the three parts of John's Gospel: the prologue, the book of signs, and the book of glory, right? And we know John uses signs as opposed to miracles because he's pointing to the identity of Jesus. Like, this is it. This is the sign. Look at him, right? And then we look at Nicodemus. I love this. Nicodemus, woman at the well, man born blind, and of course the washing the feet is the grand finale there. But I just love the three characters there. And in those three stories, we can really get into the heart of Jesus' story, right? So Nick at night, right? The Pharisee who comes at night is not sure. He's kind of liking what he sees, but he can't let anyone see him. So he comes at night. We're Nichodemus. We're the one that comes in the night and not sure. Do we want people to see us? Do we want people to see our Christianity? Do we want people to see our faith? Oh, I don't know. What are people going to think? What if I'm too Catholic? What if I'm too religious? What if, right? We shy away from the passion of our faith because, people might see it. So we have Nicodemus coming in the night, and he takes us all with him. We walk in through the night, through the back door, and we kind of test the waters. Do we believe? Could we believe? Should we believe? Can we be this leader? Right? Love this story. Okay. And then we're going to the woman at the well. And again, we're all that woman, men and women, she represents us all, right? And she comes in the middle of the day as opposed to Nicodemus coming at night. Because again, in the middle of the day, there's no one around. It's the heat of the heat of the day. It's the hottest point in the day. And so she goes to the well knowing no one's going to be there. And yet there's Jesus. This incredible encounter. And he knows everything about her. What an amazing story. And then of course, the drinking from the well, the water of life, and then she just drops the jug. She drops her old life in a sense. She leaves it behind, and she becomes the word in terms of taking it back to the people. I've witnessed. This is Jesus. Like this woman, Samaritans again and Jews did not get along. Long history behind that. Jesus uses Samaritans in his story to show the conflict of neighbors and the impact of that in the storytelling. So if you don't know a lot about Samaritans, do look them up, and that relationship between Jews and Samaritans, and you'll see why Jesus goes to bring Samaritans into the story. Okay, and the man born blind faith, right? What's it going to take for us to see? How are we going to open our eyes to faith? What makes us blind? Tomorrow's first reading in the daily readings for May 1st is Paul's story of conversion. He has this crazy, amazing story of conversion. He has the conversion story that takes him from a sinner to an apostle, right? Saul to Paul, knocked off his horse, blind after 3 days, he sees. He becomes the cheerleader of the church. Christianity, honestly, a lot of that is attributed to Paul's, mission to get out there and get the word and start building the church. We are in the Easter season. This is all stories of the early church. How did it begin? How did we build this church? St. Paul, gotta love him. Never met Jesus, met him on the road, so to speak, you know, when he gets his vision back, right? So, amazing stories. So just in terms of your own life, as you're reflecting on this experience of John's Gospel and doing scripture for the last time, because some of you will never do scripture again unless you choose to take theology courses, right? Keep going, keep the learning, keep going deeper. There's so many resources out there. Use the books, use the people in your schools. Take opportunities to learn and to grow with these stories and grow in your understanding and your image of God as well, because our students need strong witness. They don't need this kind of, oh, you know, I'm not sure, and then, you know, bringing in your own agenda to the religion class or whatever class you're teaching, and then it compromises the gospel, and, you know, it just leads to confusion. Know the story. Know your story in faith. Know how it fits in. Be honest when you don't understand and say, I'll do the homework. I'm going to figure this out. And go with your students on a faith journey. Be authentic. It's an amazing story. And our kids need to know this, because in a lot of times you're the only church they're ever going to see. They don't go inside. A lot of them, they don't go inside to their parish anymore. They come to the church in your classroom. And it doesn't have to be religion class. It could be hospitality, it could be math, it could be phys ed. Sometimes the greatest religion lessons are done outside the religion classroom, because they're taking away, you know, they have to do the academic stuff in the religion classroom, you know, and some of them balk at that. But when they come into other classes, they could see faith in action, think, oh, there's a connection. It's not just in religion class. This stems out to other aspects of the school. Oh, okay. This is how we're working. We need to work together in this. And but what I'm reading, some of you guys are doing like an awesome job. You're there. You got it. So keep going. Keep embracing the passion of Scripture. It is such a foundational piece. Moving into morality. New video. Lots to say. God bless. I'm also going to do a video to do the Gospel of the Day. Break it up a little bit. Good job, everyone.